Initially, I had talked to the team about saying, I want to open the game up more. We've made a very linear game, which we allow a little bit of exploration. I would call it like, hallway room, where we go off the path just a little bit, explore some rooms, get a little bit of discovery, but we never really open things up wide. I didn't want to make an open world game because I didn't want people to kind of get overwhelmed by it. I love open world games. It's just for this one, I wanted to start smaller and maybe work our way up to something even bigger. It ended up getting a little bigger than I expected, that's for sure. Yes. But it was a longer process. It took a lot of convincing of people in the beginning to see if it would be valid, to prove that, hey, this is going to be fun, trust me. And a lot of the really fun stuff didn't come online until about 3.5 years, maybe 4 years in. So there's a lot of like hustling and conversation with a lot of people. But I have an incredible team, and they were able to make it 1,000 times better than I could have ever described it. It definitely was a bit more of a surprise how big it avoided me. And we cut a bunch of stuff too. So there was a lot of things that were removed from the game. So there was the part where Atreus gets angry, right? And he gets kind of full of himself because he finds out he's a god. That was actually supposed to be, 3 times the length. So a lot of people said, oh, that feels rushed, and they're right. Like, it feels rushed because we had to cut so much out of that in order to just finish the game. There was probably another 20 to 25% of the game. Like, we cut full parts of levels. Muspelheim is 1/3 the size that it originally was. So Muspelheim, the volcano, was actually, a huge thing that you spent a lot of time going up, but our reach exceeded our grasp on that one, so we had to pull back, and we pulled back late in the game too. So this is in 2017 that we realized like it's not going to get done, and a lot of stuff happened in 17 of us realizing, okay, New Game Plus. We just announced that one, and that was supposed to be part of the original game. And we just kind of said, like, look, in order to make this date, we have to start ejecting things. And it just started about in the beginning of 2017, and all throughout 17, I just had to keep throwing things overboard, and okay, that's not going to work. So yeah, it's a lot of heartache, but at the end, it turns out really good. Well, I did a little bit of reading in a lot of mythologies when I first came back. I had a sort of predisposition, I think, to Norse because I had heard about it, but I was like, all right, I'm going to try to keep it open-minded and read about everything. It ended up being Norse and Egyptian were the 2 most interesting for me that I was very intrigued with. I realized that there's no way that Kratos would have only gone to Egypt if he wanted to get away from Greece. So the initial sort of distance he wanted to create from Greece, I was like, it might not be very plausible if it feels like he wants to make distance. There's still some connections, between those 2 mythologies. So I thought, okay, let's look at something else. And when we started talking about how big I wanted the game to be, I realized we needed the levity. We needed a mythology that had a little bit of a sense of humor too. And yeah, the Scandinavians have a very weird sense of humor, not only for their mythologies, but just every Scandinavian I've ever met is just this wacky person. So it was wonderful. Okay, so I started kicking this idea around years before I came back to Sony. It was something I had started to think of. I had seen one of the movies do it, obviously Hitchcock's Rope, but recent movies, and I love Hard Boiled. Hard Boiled has this fantastic single shot scene when they're going into the hospital. And I started to imagine, like, okay, there's a sense of immediacy when you watch it in a film, and I was like, that'd be really interesting because in a game, getting that sense of immediacy to a relationship, if you can develop that relationship realistically over time, you never get a break, right? And that's a good thing. A lot of times in design, people start thinking about how can I give the player a break so that there are the sort of pacing curves that you want. And I thought dramatically and emotionally it would be interesting that in real life, as a parent, you don't get a break. You don't get time off, right? You are always on that job. So it would be an interesting way to kind of mesh the story goals with the presentation goals. And I had been talking about this, I think, to the Tomb Raider crew, and it was more ambitious. Like at that time, I was like, we're gonna do no cinematics and no camera cuts, and that meant like, there's cinematics happening all in this room right now, right? And if I go and walk over and listen to that conversation, I'm gonna get something different than if I walk over to that conversation, but I'm gonna miss that conversation. And convincing people that it's okay to completely miss something is very hard. I think now a lot of people have started to move towards this, so it's a little easier to not sound so crazy. And I think the no-cut camera actually working in the game makes it a little bit easier, perhaps in the future, to start exploring crazier ideas. People. Me, I'm just super controlling. And a lot of it is coming from this original vision that I had. So I have the most sort of connection to all this material. I know every aspect of it because I'm involved in everything across the board, trying to get it all to line up and look like the picture I have in my head. So I think it's just easier for me to go out and talk about it because I know a lot of the stuff, but I don't know, for me, it's awesome. I love seeing creators talk about their work. There's a lot of passion behind the things that they do. Listening to Intihar talk about Spider-Man, right? Listen to Garvin talk about Days Gone. Listen to Kojima talk about Death Stranding and confusing me continually because I still don't understand what that game is about. I think that is the connection that as a gamer I want, right? It's the same way as a movie lover. Like I want to hear the director of a movie talk about what were they thinking, right? I want to hear David Harbour talk about how he approached Hooper on Stranger Things or Hellboy. Like I'm very excited to hear about it. I'm more controlling than perfectionist. I think I'm perfectionist, but in the sense that I'm very, very open during the process to that better idea, right? I'm continually kind of like, you know, the exposed nerve, waiting for some kind of feeling from some direction of somebody to say, oh, that's actually a much better idea. There's so many aspects of the game that, well, my original vision was here. Somebody said, what if we tried this? Ooh, that's interesting. And somebody said, well, what if we did that on top of that? And then all of a sudden, we're still in the same general direction, but it's so much better, right? That's what you get, I think, by working with really good teams and being able to connect every single day and just hone in on something and say, we're gonna make this better. How can we make this better? And we do that literally every single day. It's crazy. Yes, but it's like a certain type of person, I think. You know, you have to. I am very OCD, very obsessive, and I don't let things lie, and I'm constantly wanting to be involved in all these things. It's really exhausting. So like I don't recommend it to a lot of people because it will wear you out, man. 5 years of this kind of sprint, right? It's a marathon, but I mean you're sprinting the whole time just trying to get this thing done. It's wonderful. I don't think I would want to be doing anything else, but at the end of every one of these, I'm always contemplating like, do I need to just like take a long break because I am so tired. And you know, get bored. That's what I'm doing now. I'm on my vacation and I am spending time with family and looking to creatively get bored. You know, it's wonderful spending time with my family and not really trying to worry too much about anything else. And I figure in a month or two, I'll start getting antsy and need something to do. I had heard it from somebody. Somebody was talking about the review process. They asked me, like, oh, what do you do when the reviews come out? And I was like, oh, I kind of lock myself away and grab a whiskey and like just take in everything, right? And they're like, you should do a reaction video of that. And I was like, really? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I started to remember, like, oh, I became obsessed with reaction videos, like watching people's reactions to E3 trailer reveals, the Let's Play videos, just kind of like watching people do different parts of God of War in the Let's Play videos is like, it's my crack right now. Like, that is wonderful. So I thought, okay, I'll try it. I was in Sydney at the time. I just had my little MacBook. So I kind of was like, all right, I'll just give it a shot and put it on. I had no expectation or any idea. I didn't even know if I was going to show it. And the reaction very much surprised me. And then after that, I kind of ran it by a few people. I was like, I don't know if I should show people this. I think this might be too much. And I showed it to several people, and they're like, no, you should totally do this. You should show them. I would say that legitimately, yeah, it's very scary, I think, as a creator to put your work out there. It is doubly scary as a creator to put yourself out there. I think, you know, part of it is for my son, you know, to let him know, but I think also it's sort of a solidarity of the actors I work with because they do that every day, right? Like I basically am asking them to open a vein on the set every single day and show me the darkest parts of their life, right? Like, and feel this over and over again. When I say, again, back to one, like, I'm asking Chris, basically, to get into this very dark place. You know, shooting the Blades reveal scene with Athena, right, showing up. I had him do it like 4 times, right? And I felt horrible. And he actually even just said, like, look, I could do another one, but I think I just need a break, man. And I was like, oh, please. You know, I felt terrible, gave him a big hug and said, let's just go have a cigarette or something. Like, we need to step away from this. And even as attuned as I am trying to be with the actors, I still sometimes forget like what they go through. So I think a little bit there was for them too. Great side effect to that video, that a lot of people started to see that games are not a corporate entity, right? That while we spend, we have big budgets, so therefore we are supported by corporations. They're made by people. They're made by people who love games, right? Nobody who makes games sets out and says, I want to make a terrible game and make all the people in the world mad. They have a cool idea, right? And whether it turns out great, whether it doesn't turn out great, it doesn't diminish the fact that they worked their ass off, right? That they and other people came collectively together and put themselves out there for the world to be judged, right? And I think the positive response to that video, it overwhelmed me, but it made me very happy to see that perhaps we're moving towards a little bit of this acknowledgement that human beings make these things and we care so deeply about the work that we do. No. You hope for it. I think every developer hopes for it, but I don't think you allow yourself to expect it, right? There's times perhaps that you kind of feel so good, you have a great day, something just clicks and it all comes together, you're like, oh, this is really great. But there's that demon voice in the back of your head at all times. Like going to E3 2016, I was super nervous, right? And I couldn't sleep the night before. I was hearing all the negative things people could have said about the game, and that didn't really end, right? It's fighting through that, I think, is the key. Is that it always exists, everybody has it, but it's to say, I don't care, I'm gonna push through it because this is what I want, right? So to relax, when I go home, sometimes I'll play games, usually something like FIFA or something like that, just to really unwind and not think about it. But a lot of the times it'll be my wife and I, we will watch a comedy show or a drama. We have a little tradition that we sit down together at the end of the day, have a little wine, have a little chocolate, and then watch something that's either funny or dramatic, right? That just lets us both unwind and talk about it a little bit. Okay. It's wonderful. Plans for the future. Vacation. Immediate future vacation. No clue what we're doing beyond that.
Okay. Thanks, Cory.
Thank you.